Stephen King's It is easily one of my most favorite books of all time, and possibly even my number one. It's hard to tell sometimes. I mean, I did mention on my Bioshock video that it was in fact Fountainhead that was my most favorite book of all time, and true on one hand, Fountainhead did completely blow my noggin away like you would not believe. The Fountainhead completely changed me as a person in the sense that it forever instilled a love of learning in me that is still very much a part of my life today. But on the other hand, Stephen King's It is easily one of the greatest, most mesmerizing, most haunting, chilling, and powerful stories I have ever read. And I'm definitely a guy who loves his stories, whatever form they may take. In fact, I think the three most powerful stories I have ever experienced so far are Final Fantasy VII, Stephen King's It, and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And coincidentally, they all have something very important in common, and that is, the evil is right beneath our feet. And it's worth mentioning that this is also true with the game Chrono Trigger and with the movie John Carpenter's The Thing, which we have recently covered on this channel. The evil is right below our feet, everyone. The evil is within. Hey, Georgie! Do you want a balloon? My first experience with it was at a very young age, at only 7, I believe, around the time I was playing Contra and discovering aliens in the arcade. And not even the novel, mind you, or even the fantastic TV movie yet, but honestly, just the commercial. Just the commercial for the upcoming TV movie that was about to premiere on ABC. And that was it. I was sitting up in my room late at night in Manlius, New York. I was probably just watching TGIF or something like that on ABC, when suddenly something popped up on the screen that was pretty much the opposite of TGIF. And I don't even remember much of it exactly, what I saw anymore really, other than how scared I was. And the image of the tunnels, the glowing lights, and the children running as fast as their little legs could carry them, crept into me. It honestly might have been the scariest image I've ever seen in my life up to that point. Not even the Aliens game would compare. Plus, I did find it strange. I find it very strange and interesting how images get distorted over time, because I seriously remember in the commercial that they were all running on some kind of a dark, creepy space lights road of creepy lights. Kind of like the Rainbow Road from Hell, and not unlike the final stage of Earthbound, actually. But of course, no scene in the movie exists. I probably just dreamt it up, of course. The Berenstain Bear parallel universe theory is ridiculous, after all. If reality changed, then your memories would change as well with it. So if something was Berenstein when you were young and turned to Berenstain, your memories would change accordingly with it. Case closed. Time passed and we eventually moved away from Manlius to Oneana. I eventually got a little older, as young children tend to do, and by the summer of 1996, when the Olympics were in Atlanta, we were visiting my godmother on Long Island, right inside her refurbished Floral Park basement. Easily the coolest basement I had ever or will ever know. It was the first place I experienced Nintendo, after all, and Contra. And so I stumbled upon an old, off-television recorded VHS copy of it that was made by one of my older cousins, and at the age of 12, I finally sat down to watch it, and it was awesome! Now, being 12 years old, I wasn't scared at all, but yeah, it was still mind-blowing, and I was just so hypnotized by it that, even though I really wasn't much of a reader at the time, unless you count the creations of Stan Lee, Beverly Cleary, and R.L. Stine, of course, and even though it was almost a whopping 1,100 pages, I knew I had to somehow get through it and read it, cover to cover. And the following school year, my first year as a middle schooler, that is exactly what I did, along with feeling sorry for myself and moping all the time. And it, too, just like the Fountainhead, I think it really changed me forever. I think it instilled something in me. I think it turned something on, some switch of some kind. Even more than Alien and Aliens and Contra. I think this book might be the reason why I became a writer in the first place. I think it turned the writing switch on in my head, so to speak. I used to think that it was because I ran out of good RPGs to play back in college. I'm not playing Final Fantasy XI online with other people, I thought. But no, I think that this is where it all started for me. In an old, refurbished Floral Park basement filled with old mask toys and Nintendo games, and an old VHS copy of it. So yeah, for that reason alone, I think Stephen King's It is in fact my most favorite book of all time. Cheers! And you know, interestingly enough, if you don't mind me getting into something personal for a while, I have actually read Stephen King's It 3 whole times. 3 whole times on 3 separate occasions in my entire life so far, and coincidentally, or perhaps not, who knows how these things work. Each of these times just so happened to be during what was surprisingly the darkest, most terrifying, and hands down the most difficult 3 times of my entire life so far. My first year as a middle schooler, that sucked. My first year as a corrections officer, that sucked even more, but at least this time I had a baton. And then finally, my first year as a father to my little daughter, Sophie. And for the record, that did not suck at all. That first year of becoming a father was fantastic. It was the most wonderful and rewarding, fulfilling year of my entire life. But but I don't mind saying it all, and I'm sure there are a lot of parents out there will agree with me that it was also the scariest, because becoming a parent for the first time, it is easily the most terrifying experience of your life. I mean, you're overwhelmed with joy, yes, but also with an overwhelming, unbridled, unshakable, unrelenting sense of pure, constant, absolute terror. Because when you first become a parent, everything suddenly becomes this great big unknown, a huge unknown. You don't know anything anymore, and you're terrified every waking moment, terrified that something, some terrible some unknown is going to befall your poor, helpless little loved one in some way. And compared to that, reading Stephen King's horror masterpiece about some planet-devouring clown is really not all that bad in comparison now, is it? It's like, shit, I don't care that he ate them kids. It's not like he ate my kids or something, gosh. And you know, that honestly reminds me, speaking of It being such a horror masterpiece, I really have no idea why It is not unanimously considered to be Stephen King's greatest work of all time. And I probably never will. I'll never get that. I mean, most people seem to point to The Stand, but I don't really like The Stand that much at all, let me tell you. In the end, if you ask me, The Stand is nothing more than a great big disappointment. Honestly, I mean, what the fuck? The very hand of God comes down and ends up blowing up a nuclear weapon that finally kills all the mean people. Hallelujah! Holy shit! Are you serious? And don't even get me started on the Dark Tower series either. Another so-called fan favorite.
What the fuck?
No, for my money, Stephen King's It is his best. It's good all the way through from start to finish with an ending that in no way disappoints. It makes the whole thing feel complete, and it's also a darn good TV movie too, I might add. It, the TV movie, was so darn good back in the day that I never even knew it was a TV movie in the first place. And it is most definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it already, just to see Tim Curry's portrayal of It, and to see how well they adapted the novel. And of course, I think now's a good time to mention that we also have a new Hollywood motion picture version of It coming out this October 2017. Yay! And I already like everything I'm seeing coming out of it. After Stranger Things, I don't mind at all that they're setting it in the 1980s rather than the 1950s. Stranger Things was awesome, and in the new It movie, I love the dude they got playing Pennywise. It's clown form. I love everything he's saying about it. Bill Skarsgård describes Pennywise as being such an extreme character, inhumane. It's beyond even a sociopath, because it's not even a human. He's not even a clown. Skarsgård then says, I'm playing just one of the beings that it creates. It truly enjoys taking the shape of the clown Pennywise, and enjoys the game and the hunt. Skarsgård then elaborated on its connection to the children, saying that there's a childishness to the character, because he's so closely linked to the kids. The clown is a manifestation of children's imagination, so there's something childlike about that. And there's something very childlike about it indeed. If you ask me, in a lot of ways, in spite of how powerful and eternal it may be, it still pretty much acts like nothing more than a spoiled, bratty child. One that was most certainly always used to getting its way, that was for damn sure. For the most part, its existence, all of the town of Derry, Maine, was nothing more than its personal playpen, its personal haunt, its slaughterhouse, where it would wake up every 27 to 30 years or so, feed off the fears and bodies of the children in the town, and then it would go back to sleep and dream and dream and dream until 27 to 30 years later, it would be time to wake up again and repeat the same thing all over again. That is, of course, until the Losers Club came into the picture back in the summer of 1958, where a large amount of the novel takes place. The Losers Club was made up of 7 kids, 7 outcast kids, something a lot of us can relate to, who formed a bond together, the likes of which it had never seen or had ever even thought possible before. To say the least, it was having serious trouble killing and feasting upon these kids. It was as if they were all protected by something, some magic, some other, and it set its entire world into a tizzy. And when it does in the novel, you really see right inside its head, inside these rare fantastic passages where you actually get to hear things directly from its perspective, and it's absolutely amazing hearing them. Here, let me give you an excerpt. Something new had happened. For the first time in forever, something new. Before the universe, there had only been 2 things. One was it itself, and the other was the turtle. The turtle was a stupid old thing that never came out of its shell. It thought that maybe the turtle was dead, had been dead for the last billion years or so. Even if it wasn't, it was still a stupid old thing. And even if the turtle had vomited the universe out whole, that didn't change the fact of its stupidity. It had come here long after the turtle withdrew into its shell, here to Earth, and it had discovered a depth of imagination here that was almost new, almost of concern. This quality of imagination made the food very rich, its teeth rent flesh gone stiff with exotic terrors and voluptuous fears. They dreamed of night beasts and moving muds. Against their will, they contemplated contemplated endless gulfs. Upon this rich food, it existed in a simple cycle of waking to eat and sleeping to dream. It had created a place in its own image, and it looked upon this place with favor from the deadlights, which were its eyes. Derry was its killing pen. The people of Derry, its sheep. Things had gone on. Then these children, something new for the first time in forever. When it had burst up into the house on Neibolt Street, meaning to kill them all, vaguely uneasy that it had not been able to do so already, and surely that unease had been the first new thing. Something had happened which was totally unexpected, utterly unthought of, and there had been pain. Pain! Great roaring pain all through the shape it had taken. And for one moment there had also been fear, because the only thing it had in common with the stupid old turtle and the cosmology of the macroverse outside the puny egg of this universe was just this. All living things must abide by the laws of shape. All living things must abide by the shape they inhabit. For the first time it realized that perhaps its ability to change its shape might work against it, as well as for it. There had never been pain before. There had never been fear before. And for a moment it had thought it might die. Oh, its head had been filled with a great white silver pain, and it had roared and mewed and bellowed, and somehow the children had escaped. It understood vaguely that these children had somehow turned its own tools against it. That, by coincidence, surely not on purpose, surely not guided by the hand of any other, by bonding of the 7 extraordinarily imaginative minds, it had been brought into a zone of great danger. Any of these 7 alone would have been its meat and drink, and if they had not happened to come together, it surely would have picked them off one by one, drawn by the quality of their minds, just as a lion might be drawn to one particular waterhole by the scent of a zebra. But together they had discovered an alarming secret that even it had not been aware of. That belief had a second edge. If there are 10,000 medieval peasants who create vampires by believing them real, there may be one, probably a child, who will imagine the stake necessary to kill it. But a stake is only stupid wood. The mind is the mallet which drives it home. I cannot tell you how truly mind-blowing and terrifying I find these ideas to be, that in some way reality may be in fact an extension of our imaginations rather than the other way around. That reality may not be as nearly concrete as we like to think it to be. That whole Berenstain-Bears paradox is really the tip of the iceberg. The ground under our feet may very well in fact be incredibly shaky here. Here, let me read you those last 2 sentences again, and please, really listen to them. I think they are honestly the 2 most important sentences in the whole book. If there are 10,000 medieval peasants who create vampires by believing them real, there may be one, probably a child, who will imagine the stake necessary to kill it. But a stake is only a stupid piece of wood. The mind is the mallet which drives it home. Now here, let me ask you a question. Do you believe in vampires? No, of course not. Because I'm sure, as we all agree, there is no such thing as vampires. Nobody sane really believes in such things anymore. But back in the day, in the Middle Ages, in the Dark Ages, people at large most certainly did believe in that kind of stuff. In vampires and all sorts of other crazy stuff. And there are all sorts of stories and myths from this time to go along with it and corroborate with it, but no evidence. Virtually no evidence whatsoever, of course, that these creatures ever actually existed. I mean, you'd think there'd be a fossilized werewolf skeleton somewhere, right? But no. But now, if we suddenly look at these events through a Stephen King lens, if these entities did actually in fact once exist, and they were in fact once an extension of people's imaginations, a large amount of people's imaginations, I think this needs to be a very large group of people for this thing to work. Not to mention, I think people's imaginations were much more powerful during the Dark Ages. They were all insanely superstitious after all. But anyways, if eventually people at large stopped believing in them, imagining them, then they would start to disappear completely altogether, wouldn't they? Every trace of them, along with any evidence left behind, to be found whatsoever. Save, of course, for the stories and the myths passed down from generation to generation. Those are the only things that ever seem to survive. And people like Stephen King seem to be really good at picking up on them. Like some dark tower, some nexus point. Still sounds like hogwash to you, right? Sure. Okay, well here, let me ask you a second question. Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe in extraterrestrials and UFOs? A lot of people, such as myself, would say no. But unlike with vampires today, many people across the globe truly and actually believe in aliens and UFOs and little gray man and all that stuff. And there has been an unspeakable, insane amount of documented sightings in America and across the world, all the way back since Roswell 1947. Now, everyone, let me make this abundantly clear. Roswell 1947 was in fact nothing more than a bunch of downed weather balloons as part of that CIA skyhook program that Batman used to get his ass out of Hong Kong. And nothing more, and yet still, look what that entire debacle sparked in all of our imaginations across the world. And perhaps from that, reality as we know it is just simply acting accordingly to what we are imagining by having all these objects suddenly appear in the sky. And maybe, therefore, all of our imaginations are in fact making all these UFOs suddenly appear, just like vampires used to. Or Jimmy F. and Christ, take your pick. The truth is out there, everyone. The truth is reality's far from fixed. Of that I am sure, but also I think is a good time for me to now point out that do I really 110% believe in this stuff? No, of course not. Not really. Only a grain of truth at best. I think every single person has some kind of a control over reality, whether they like to believe it or not. Same as how every single one of us has some gravity to us. Same as all the planets and stars. But it's on such a teeny, minuscule scale. I don't know how much of a difference it makes. And yet still, I think this is Stephen King's most powerful and most frightening idea of all time. And I still think it is definitely something worth contemplating and thinking about from time to time. The power of our imaginations. The power of our faith. And belief in whatever that may be, and how it does in some way or another shape the very world as we know it, every day. But anyways, if any of this interests you, please consider reading Stephen King's It. I'm Justin M. Bailey, and I humbly hope that with this video I've helped to spark something in your imagination too. Hey there, Georgie! Do you want a balloon?